to TGIF, everyone. How are you today? It's RTC here from RealToughCandy.io. I am the owner and founder of RealToughCandy.io, and I am the author of 5 books to help you on your coding journey. My 5th release, Portfolio Surgery, just dropped a few weeks ago. Shout out to everyone who snagged a copy of that. This is designed to revamp your portfolio projects along with the portfolio itself. It's also a course on RealToughCandy.io. I hope you are doing good today. Today's topic is gonna be intense. I did a live stream back in March about coding boot camps. We had a pretty honest talk about them. But now that the months have gone by, we need to talk about them again. Here's what we're going to talk about today. It's going to be a fusion of just hanging out, just talking, discussing coding boot camps. We're going to fuse that conversational piece with some training. What do I mean by that? Well, let me go over what we're going to cover today. Number 1, got to do a roll call. See who all is here today. Saw some familiar faces in the chat. We're going to talk about what the heck coding boot camps even are. What do they do? What they can and can't offer. Who should consider going to a coding boot camp or should consider researching them at least? Why boot camps have a bad rap? We're going to answer the question. I know inquiring minds want to know, are all boot camps trash? Oh yeah, we're going there in this live stream. We're going to talk about 23 questions. I whipped this up last night. I had a just burst of inspiration. 23 questions you should ask your boot camp admissions rep. Now, if you want to follow along when we go through this checklist, go ahead and Google the RealToughCandy.io blog. Just Google RealToughCandy.io blog, and this will pop up. Because we also have another article on the blog that we're going to go over today. It is from our mod extraordinaire, Sarah, who actually went to a boot camp. And this is this article here, right here, Coding Bootcamp Nightmare. Once you read her story, you're going to be saying, yeah, that does sound kind of nightmarish. Oh, that really happened? So we're going to go over both of these blog posts today. If you want to follow along, just go ahead and Google the RealToughCandy.io blog. We're also going to talk about coding boot camp red flags. And then finally, if we have enough time today, I know that's a lot to go through, we're going to go to the live chat and see what people are saying about these boot camps. Now, when I posted in my community tab, I'm fairly active there. I post a couple times a week on YouTube in the community tab. When I posted Sarah's story, let me go in here. So basically, it was just a Q&A with Sarah who went to this boot camp. And when I posted it in the YouTube community tab, we had multiple developers chime in and share their experiences with boot camps. And so the reason I'm doing this video today isn't to scare people or say, all boot camps are horrible. So that was kind of a spoiler alert. Not all boot camps are trash. There are some good ones, but there are also a lot of bad ones. When I say bad, I mean they're ripoffs. They're taking a lot of money for not a lot of value that you'll receive as a student. And when I'm here on YouTube working as Real Tough Candy, my main goal, in fact, my only goal, is to help developers improve their life, whether it means leveling up a skill, leveling up their life, landing a job, getting a raise. That's my perspective. So I don't work for a boot camp. I don't try to place people in boot camps. If I feel like it's a good fit, if I'm working with developers, I may recommend it. But I work for developers. I work for especially new developers who are coming into this industry, especially career changers, because there are a lot of things that can go wrong. So let's go to the YouTube live chat here. We're going to check in with everyone. I saw some familiar faces. Book drop, like I said. By the way, Paradoodly-Doo, can you drop that little link? This Portfolio Surgery book is also a course on RealToughCandy.io, and I show you 5 methods for completely transforming your projects. If you like books, it's a book. If you like videos, it's a video course. So thanks, Para, for popping that in. Let's go see who else is here today. Holy smokes! We already have 36 people here. Thanks so much for tuning in. Sarah, Paradoodly-Doo are awesome mods. Candace, what's up? Candace says, hey everyone, currently working at the moment, so just gonna listen in. Candace, you're always working. Good for you. Once Thursday hits, I'm like, yeah, I just don't want to work at all. Like, somebody else is going to have to do this for me. Like last Thursday on Thanksgiving, I'm like, I'm canceling tomorrow's live stream. I just don't want to. Thanks for tuning in. Taylor Arndt, William Claybrook, what's up? Hologram Nunchuck, Randy Miller, Donovan, lots of channel members here today. Great to see. Jose, Jonathan, Message Tech, and Lorna, and any others I may have missed. I apologize. Thanks for tuning in today. So today's session, again, is going to be more conversational, but also kind of educational. Get that education so you can get even further educated, potentially at a boot camp or maybe at a boot camp alternative. So let's get into it. What is a coding boot camp? A coding boot camp is simply a place to accelerate your learning. What will you learn? You will learn software. You will learn how to code. You will learn technologies like HTML, CSS, JavaScript, Ruby, Python, maybe even Ruby on Rails, maybe C#, maybe .NET, maybe none of those things. Maybe you're going for data science. There are coding boot camps meant for web developers. There are coding boot camps meant for iOS developers. There are coding boot camps meant for UX UI people. There are coding boot camps meant for data scientists. Did I already say that one? Full stack, front end, back end, the works. And they are meant to accelerate your learning because, let's face it, this crap is hard. It's very expansive. And even the simple stuff can take you quite some weeks to learn. I remember when I was first starting out, one of the biggest issues I had was just the terminology. Like, it was in English. The way these people were explaining these things was in English, but even the way they were explaining it was like a foreign language to me. And so just picking up the terms like, what is MongoDB? What is NoSQL? What is full stack? What is PHP? What is an ORM? You know, all these acronyms and all these different terms, like not just, and that was before I even knew how they worked, just like what it meant. And so even just getting started by yourself can be really almost intimidating, certainly overwhelming. And, you know, we have these people who say, and to a point I agree with them completely, but to a point, that's the operative phrase there, because they say, oh, you can just go, why bother with college? Why bother with learning why pay for anything? You can just learn it online. Yes, you can, but it's tough. People were making that argument before the internet. They're saying you can just go to a library. Yes, you can, but it's tough. Where do you get that guidance? Where do you get that one-on-one attention? What happens if you don't understand something? That's where a boot camp, at least a good one, is going to come into play. Because it's not just, we're post information. This is the post information age. We don't even think about it when we Google something. All this information is easily available to almost everyone around the world for those who seek it. And you can get it within a matter of seconds. So the information is not what's valuable. It's the curation of it and the organization of it and the delivery of it and the reinforcement of it. It's these methods, it's these techniques, it's these strategies for imparting the information and the strategy for helping you transform that information into knowledge. Because no one ever said Google was a repository for knowledge. They said it's an information, back in the day, an information superhighway, not a knowledge superhighway. The information doesn't mean it's knowledge to you. And so that process, doing it by yourself, is very tough. When I was starting out, like the second or third month, I wanted to go to a freaking boot camp. I'd had it. Like I was trying Udemy courses, which I have the tab pulled up here just to illustrate. I mean, you pop in the term JavaScript, you're going to come up with thousands of results. It's not the information that's a problem. It's all the other things I just mentioned. That these sites, these blogs, these podcasts, these, informational pamphlets, these PDFs, these YouTube videos, that they can't offer that. And so boot camps, good ones, offer an alternative to that. Because what do they have that the internet by itself doesn't? People, right? People to help you on your coding journey. People to meet with you after hours and explain a concept. A cohort of students that you can collaborate with and work with projects on. Can't do that on most other platforms, non-bootcamp platforms. So bootcamps do offer those things. And not only that, because it is an accelerated place of learning. So like the bootcamp, right? Like the traditional, you think of a bootcamp, you think of like 8 weeks, you turn them from a civilian to a lean, mean, killing machine. Like, so they took this language from the military, this bootcamp term, and started using it for taking people who didn't know anything about code or very little about code, turning them into developers after 8 weeks, 8 to 12 weeks. And so just the name itself implies something intense, and it implies something rapid, like, okay, 0 to hero in 8 weeks, 0 to hero in 12 weeks. As you may have seen in the image thumbnail of this video, doesn't necessarily always work like that. That was a quote. The quote on today's video thumbnail is from Sarah. And she mentions, let me give you some context of what I mean here. The final question we asked her, is there anything you'd like to add, some parting words of wisdom? And let me just give you some backstory. I'm not going to read the whole Sarah story here. You can go read it on the blog. Great insight. Props and shout out to Sarah for doing this interview. But her final advice, second paragraph right here, don't get into debt to learn code. I know 6 figures in 12 weeks sounds amazing, but it's not reality. If you're a beginner, just focus on learning one thing at a time. Use all the resources you can find online, go to meetups, and join coding communities. You can and will learn to code this way, and you will get that great paying job. Now we're gonna come back. I'll give you some more context on this interview in an upcoming segment that we're gonna talk about. So that is what coding bootcamps are in a nutshell. Let's talk just quickly what they can and can't offer. So they can offer you, as we mentioned, an accelerated learning experience, 8, 12, 16 weeks. Some are 6 months. A few out there are a year. I've seen one that was 18 months. That would be really intense. A boot camp, that's a year and a half. Holy smokes. They can offer you an accelerated learning environment. They can share with you the curriculum. They can offer live instruction. And they can probably offer you some career guidance. Not guaranteed, but most likely there's someone there. If they don't have a jobs program or job placement assistance, there's someone there who can at least give you some insight. So they're giving you that insight. They're giving you that accelerated learning experience. What can't they give you? Well, they can't give you they can't give you a job. When I saw that, the liability is crazy when you think about a company guaranteeing someone a job whom they've never met. Guaranteeing a job to a stranger is one of the riskiest concepts I think I've ever heard in a business context. You've got to be out of your mind. There is a certain boot camp out there. Now, I've just heard of one. They said there is a job guarantee. If you do not, we will get you a job. You will get a job, or you get your total money back. We promise you. No, it wasn't just that. It wasn't just like go out on your own. It was like, we will place you. They will place you at a company or your money back. They promise that to strangers. It's like, oh my, seriously? Then there's most boot camps do not do that. Some of them will say, if you don't get a job paying X amount of dollars a year, there's a bootcamp I know of for sure that does this. If you don't get a job paying X amount of dollars per year, you do not pay tuition. That's kind of a neat incentive. But the vast majority of these bootcamps cannot guarantee you a job. There's too much liability, and I don't blame them. They don't know strangers. Promising a stranger a job, no. So they can't guarantee that you'll be employed. They also can't guarantee that you'll find the motivation to complete the program. A lot of people, these boot camps are intense. Think about the wording again. Short, 6 to 8 weeks, 12 weeks, 16 weeks. They're trying to teach you everything you need to know about landing a new job in a 6-figure plus career field. You're going to be learning a lot. And so some people, maybe even many, the tempo is overwhelming. They're not able to finish the program, and so they're out that money. And so they can't guarantee that you'll finish the program. The biggest thing I wanted to touch on, what they can offer you, is landing a job. They can't. I would say, I'm not. Well, it's too much of a diatribe. We could talk about it in the Discord. I just find that marketing element was very fascinating when I saw that on a certain bootcamp. I'm like, they're guaranteeing they will place strangers in company. If I was a company working with that bootcamp, I would be terrified if like they changed the rules on me. Like, yes, as a business owner, or like, yes, I'm hiring, I'm looking for new developers. Please send me their name, send me their info, and I'll give them a call back. You know, if I find their application materials, if I like their portfolio, I'll give them a call back. If they change the rules and we're like, yeah, you have to accept our students or we're going to cut you, I'll be like, you can cut me. I won't work with that. Too much of a liability. But anyways, that's a business rant. Let's go on to the next big thing here. Who should consider going to a boot camp? Many people have thought about going to one, have done their research on it. I'm one of those people. Let me quickly tell you about my evolution into exploring these boot camps. So like it was like the second or third month again, when I was getting frustrated. I was trying all these platforms. I was on Udemy, I was on the Odin Project, I was on Free Code Camp, I was on Udacity, I was on Coursera. Like I would just platform jump every couple weeks because I was taking the Colt Steel Bootcamp on Udemy, which, by the way, it's according to him, it's the same exact curriculum that he uses in his bootcamp. So wait, that's not my brain. Here's my brain. Think about this. It's the same curriculum, but one costs $20,000 and one costs $999. What are you really paying for? Or you're paying for the stuff we talked about earlier, the transformation of that information into knowledge. You're paying for strategies, techniques, methods for implementing that education. When you do a $999 course, you're doing it all yourself. So I platform jump, and finally I said, you know what, I've had it. I'm going to check out some of these boot camps. Now, I have the GI Bill at my disposal, and unfortunately there weren't that many boot camps who were taking the GI Bill, and there was no way I was going to pay 10 to 15 grand for a for-profit school. I just wasn't, because I'd been to for-profit schools twice before. I went to automotive tech school. That was a for-profit school. And I also went to audio engineering. I went to go learn audio engineering. And that was a for-profit school as well. And both experiences I ended up leaving because the curriculum and the instructors were very low quality. So I had learned my lesson, not once, but twice. And I said, you know, this boot camp thing, I'm seeing the red flags again. I see the patterns from when I went to automotive engineering school, from when I went to audio engineering school. I'm seeing these patterns, and I don't want to do that again. Certainly, I don't want to pay for it. So I was like, okay, my GI Bill is going to pay for this coding bootcamp, no matter which one I pick. At the time, there were like less than 10, and they were all scattered around the country. So I reached out to about 3 of them. There was 2 Java boot camps, one of which is out of business. A week after I did their interview, I went to go meet with them. They didn't get back to me. I'm like, hey, what's up? They're like, we went out of business. It's like, okay, thanks for telling me. I was like waiting for you to accept me. The other one, too many red flags. And the third one also had red flags. I spent a lot of time on their landing pages, on their sales pages, and really reading what they're trying to tell me and really trying to see inside their marketing campaigns. I've seen other boot camps I didn't pursue, but just was kind of checking out. They didn't have encryption on their website and on their application. This happened twice. 2 boot camps costing $10,000 plus. These 2 boot camps I saw didn't have encryption on their website, and their admission form was unencrypted. And you know what they were asking me for? First, last, date of birth, social security, freaking personal, just, personal, insightful stuff. Like, why do you want to go to our boot camp? What are you struggling with? Like, really? Come on, do better. This is web development 101. You don't even need to know web development to install an SSL. You can do it like one click on these hosting sites. It's like 1 or 2 clicks. Come on. Another one I saw, this is a classic one too. And I know this is kind of off topic, but this was just my experience with the boot camps and how it kind of formulated and started inspiring my ideas about the boot camps and why I ultimately passed on them myself. This one boot camp. So here's what you need to realize about boot camps also is that they're not all the same. There's think of it as like a coding pyramid. And at the bottom of this pyramid, the bulk of this pyramid at the base are these for-profit entities that see a trend and they say, okay, let's open up our doors. They're not accredited. So they don't go through a state process or like a regional approval process in order to teach you. I could open up a coding bootcamp as an LLC next week. It's not that hard. Get a little marketing budget going, and voila. So at the bottom, we have these for-profits that are quick turn, quick burn. They're trying to get as many butts into seats as possible because obviously it's business, so they're there to make money, but they haven't vetted their instructors. They haven't, picked through the curriculum. Some boot camps even use frickin' Udemy videos. Why am I still on this dang page? So their methods and their techniques are very flimsy, and they're there 100% to grab your money. And if their refund policies reflect what they're all about. First week, we'll give you 50% refund. Second week, 100% goodbye. Your money's in our pocket. With no type of like appeal process or anything. So at the bulk of this pyramid are these for-profit entities, and they're very low quality. In Sarah's testimony about her bootcamp experience, she talked about a red flag. She was saying that the bootcamp she was looking at suspiciously did not have any negative reviews online. Now, there is a difference between a trolling, negative, inflammatory review, a troll level, just being a jerk, and constructive criticism. If a coding bootcamp was without trolling reviews, okay, that's a good sign. If a coding bootcamp doesn't have any constructive criticism online, it means they're paying for removal. They're paying Yelp. They're not paying Google, but they're somehow finagling it. There's a way to get any type of review removed online. There's a way to get any type of review published online. A lot of these Amazon reviews, fake. Sarah's red flag was that there was no negative reviews either of any type online. And so that's a big red flag. Why are these supposedly successful boot camps? You're telling me not one student isn't dissatisfied with your service and you're pumping out thousands of students a year? That's just not how it works. You go to these tier 1 universities on Google, they have some 1 stars. Like, they taught me too much. I hate you. 1 star. I'm going to take a swig of this kombucha here. Shout out to my friend Kombucha. Shout out to my friend Chiquito. I have been missing seeing him in the live streams, but he sponsored today's live drink. This is GT Synergy Raw Kombucha Lavender Love. This is maybe in my top 10, not top 5, but top 10. If I need just something gentle. And this topic is getting me so wound up. I knew it. I knew I had to prepare by getting this flavor. So, all that is to say, I went through the whole bootcamp vetting process myself. As a final example, so there is this top tier bootcamp. This is another thing you'll notice about bootcamps on the bottom of the pyramid. They have open enrollment. And this is not just like a boot camp thing. This is for all for-profit schools. All for-profit schools. Let me rewind this. This applies to every industry that has a segment of for-profit schools, like trade schools. I'm brain farting right now. Audio engineering, automotive technology, etc. Open enrollment means they accept everyone. If you have a pulse, they want your butt in their seat. That is a hallmark of a low-quality school, because think about it. They're accepting everyone off the street. And if you've ever been in an environment where there's a lot of rowdy students, or like they just have a policy of accepting everyone, like every troublemaker. There were people at my automotive engineering school. Felonies. I was one of the only women of like 2,000 people. For the women's bathroom, I had to carry a key. They wouldn't leave the women's bathroom unlocked. And I was like, dude, I'm not feeling very comfortable here. And it was because it was open enrollment. And that was something I didn't learn till later. And it was a red flag that I learned to keep in mind when I was vetting coding boot camps. Like, you're going to let everyone in. Number one, my safety may be at risk. And number two, I'm probably not going to freaking learn anything, because these people are just like out of control troublemakers, man. And like, not all, but if you have that sort of policy, it means anything goes. Anything goes. So you need to vet. We're going to talk about, I really want to get to this 23 questions to ask any prospective coding bootcamp. Like I said, I wrote this last night, and one of the questions is pulled from my experience at automotive engineering school. Another bootcamp. So not all bootcamps are like that, though. So moving up the pyramid, we have more reputable bootcamps. There's, I don't know, maybe like 10 of them. I'd say probably under 20. Now, I haven't gone to a boot camp, so I can't endorse them, and I can't absolutely say, from my personal experience, absolutely stay away. I can only share what I've seen in off campus. I can also only go on what I've been told by previous students, by people in my network. I have eyes on and I have antenna on out there. My feelers are here, but I can't, explicitly or maybe implicitly even endorse a coding bootcamp because I haven't been to them. But there are quite a few that have open enrollment. There are some that are very selective. Now, last year I did an interview series with this guy named Curtis. He's a curriculum developer over at App Academy. From what I saw, again, I haven't gone to this bootcamp, so I can't endorse it. But from what I saw, I was pretty impressed. Their curriculum that they use in their bootcamp is actually free. Paradoodly, can you find one of those interview videos and pop it in the description, or pop it in the live chat? I did a 4-part. It was a 3 or 4-part interview series, and I asked him the hard questions like, are boot camps? Did I ask him if boot camps were scams, or something like that? There was one question I asked him, or like, I'm gonna maybe like upset the sensibilities, but I don't care because I want to know, and I want to know from their perspective, what their mindset is and where they're coming from. So the top tier, and this is what I'm getting at, not all schools, not all coding boot camps are doing open enrollment. The ones that aren't, the further you get up the pyramid to like the tiny top, App Academy, according to their statistics, which were last updated in 2014, I'd imagine this is the same acceptance rate, if not even more clamped down, 4%. They have a 4% acceptance rate as of 2014. If I had to guess, I would guess it'd be even lower than that these days. It certainly isn't. They're not about to, companies with that reputation are not about to lose it by inviting a few hundred more people, and it's not worth it to them. The reputation is worth more in terms of dollars than quantity of students. And people will pay $20,000, $25,000 if they know they're going to get an exclusive experience, if they're going to get the top notch. And the way, from what I've interacted, from the interactions I've had with that guy, the director of the curriculum at App Academy, it seems like a top tier, and plus the 4% acceptance rate. It's exclusive. So There are some, again, it's like a pyramid though. Most of the coding boot camps you're going to stumble upon, especially if they're like ones you've never heard of in your local area, they just popped up, or they're if their website looks like trash, that's a red flag. There was one supposedly top tier boot camp where they said something like, and I always check out their marketing materials and really get inside their head to see what they're trying to sell. Somewhere in their narrative, they were like, we produce the top 1% of coding students. These students are ready to take on any task, from FANGs to startups to colonizing Mars. Our students can do it. I opened up my DevTools and checked out how they made that site, because I thought, well, I mean, geez, if their students can do anything, I mean, I wonder if they worked on this site. It was a Squarespace template, which I know some people are saying, RealToughCandy, come on, it's the right tool for the right job, right? Absolutely. But they just got done saying their students were the right tool for the job. Their students are tools for the job. And they're going to pop in a Squarespace template on their VIP bootcamp. Come on. I don't have a problem with Squarespace. I have a problem with the obscene contradiction here. So which one is it? Is it like a free Squarespace template I should be working with? Or is it a 1%er coding bootcamp student I should be calling? Like, the contradiction here is too heavy here. Does not compute. So that kind of explained my next bullet point today, why bootcamps have a bad rap. The open enrollment is a real, oh my gosh, that's just like really, really giving them a bad rap. They also have a bad rap because a lot of them use curriculum like the one right here. Now, going into Sarah's testimony, we asked her how many questions, like 10 questions. She referenced, watch this, Udemy. Did she mention this? Okay. Here were her red flags. Number 6. What were the red flags you saw? It was a little shocking because they couldn't answer what the difference in their platform and classes were compared to Udemy. Now, she didn't say here that they're using Udemy for the curriculum, but if they can't answer how their curriculum is different than Udemy, it may as well be Udemy. You remember back in the day when you had substitute teachers and they really weren't in the mood to teach and they knew they couldn't control the students, so they just played a video? Like it was somewhat related to the topic. Like we'd be in social studies and the side would come in and be like, okay, we're going to watch Where the Red Fern Grows, and I'll click. Like, okay. That's kind of like how some of these boot camps operate. Just playing their videos, giving you an A and saying good luck, or not giving you an A and saying good luck. So they have a bad rap because of their curriculum. And again, it goes back to, a lot of it goes back to the fly-by-night nature of this is a trend. We're seeing a lot of marketing. And a big part of the reason I even got into the industry anyway, or found interest in the industry, is because it was around 2014. I had a student subscription to the New York Times. I was working, I don't know, I think I was working on my master's at the time, or at least my bachelor's. And I had a student subscription either way, and I would log on every day just to kind of keep up with what's going on. And it seemed that for a month in a row, there was always some story on coding boot camps. And I started feeling like kind of envious of these students and like jealous, because I was working on a degree where I didn't know where I fit in with the degree. And I eventually got my master's in public policy. But it was more like a vo-tech school that these these boot camps reminded me of a vocational tech school where you just go to learn a trade and then you get to work. And I was like, man, did I make the wrong decision? So they had referenced this massive open online course. I think that's what the acronym is, MOOC. It was on MIT or some hoity-toity college, university site, whatever. And they were teaching Python. And so that's where I kind of got my start, was because I was like getting bombarded from the media really with how rewarding this career was and all this stuff. and how everyone was doing it, making lots of money, and there was this explosion in boot camps. And so people with money on their mind and business on their mind are seeing these things and seeing the trends. It's like, okay, I'm going to open this school. So we don't have years to work on the curriculum. We don't have years to perfect the strategy, because the material itself is going to change every couple months. Most of the courses on Udemy are outdated. Cold Steel just had a massive update on his new bootcamp, which I reviewed last month. A lot of that stuff is as soon as you release it, it starts to show its age. That's how fast web development moves. So it's always, in some senses, it's always this losing game. But some boot camps don't even try. So they get a bad rap with the curriculum. Like Sarah said, if you can't frickin' tell the difference between your curriculum and Udemy, you have a problem. And students should be calling that out and being like, I'm not paying $15,000 for a $10 Udemy course. They also have a bad rap because of the cost, which is directly related to their curriculum and how they deliver that curriculum. If they're just that substitute teacher pressing play on the VCR where the red fern grows and you're paying $15K for that, you should be upset. You should be demanding answers. And so they get a bad rap that way. They also tend to have some over-the-top marketing. Now, as Sarah said down here, we're going to go all the way. Sorry, I'm just like manically scrolling through this interview. Again, Google the RealToughCandy.io blog, and this story is the second one down. Both of my most recent articles relate to boot camps. So where is it? My final advice is to self-teach. Don't waste your money on a boot camp. Don't get into debt. I know 6 figures in 12 weeks sound amazing. So that's an example of over-the-top marketing. You see it all the time in the low-quality boot camps where it's, you will get a highly rewarding 6-figure job in 12 weeks. No, you won't. No, you won't. Even Sarah says it right here. It is not reality. She went to a boot camp. She wasted her money. Sarah, how much? If you're comfortable sharing, how much was your boot camp? Because I know it wasn't just a few $100. This was an in-person boot camp. And the other thing is, they don't have because they're not accredited, you don't have access to federal grants. You don't have access to these grants state grants even, that would normally get you a couple $1,000s in aid. You can't get the federal aid packages because they're not accredited. And I don't know if any boot camp can ever be accredited, because the thing is, and this is where it's kind of where I do understand the problem that boot camps are having, because from their perspective, because it is changing so fast. And if you're a legitimate boot camp, you're changing curriculum all the time. You don't have time for the slow inner workings of the government to approve that curriculum. Is too much red tape. That's why when you go to a community college or a 4-year college and learn web development, all the crap's outdated. It's not necessarily because the teachers suck. It's because getting approval for the new curriculum takes forever. And by the time it gets stamped by the powers that be in the government buildings, the stuff's already outdated. They're not used to this rapid changing thing called software development. They're used to approving philosophical documents from 3,000 years ago that aren't going to change anytime soon. The way it transforms, the speed in which technology transforms is unprecedented when thinking about the web in particular. Absolutely. And so the educational materials with boot camps, they have to change, but they're never going to be given the green light by any kind of government organization because it takes too long. And so that's where you kind of get screwed too, because again, those packages, financial aid packages that are available to people at say the University of Minnesota, they get these free ride scholarships from the government. You don't even have that you don't have that option at any of these boot camps. So let's go move on to the next question. Are all boot camps trash? No. As we've been discussing, it's like a pyramid. The bulk of them are at the bottom. And as you go up, some of how Uncle Bob, the Uncle Bob, he's the author of Clean Code and many other books on agile development. He and many others describe this thing called code smells. And it's like, once you've been around long enough, you can kind of just go like that and see, like, oh, that smells like an anonymous function gone wrong. So like there are code smells, but there are also bootcamp smells. And there are also for-profit school smells, for-profit schools gone wrong smells. And because I've been to two of them previously outside of the software industry, I'm usually pretty good at picking up the red flags. And one of the red flags, and we're going to talk, there was a section I had on red flags, but we've really been talking about them a lot, so I'm not going to really go into it much. Touch upon it here and there, but as far as like its dedicated segment coming up, and I don't think I will. The open enrollment is a red flag. Promises, marketing promises, red flags. And that's where you see the bulk of coding boot camps where they're saying 6 weeks, 6 figures. It's just not how it works. People going to college for 4 years, even if it's a STEM degree, they're still having problems finding a job right away after 4 years. It's training doesn't necessarily mean proficiency. It just means you've been exposed to the concepts. And if you had a passing grade, it means you passed the course. I am pro academics. I actually love school. I love going to school. I love learning. I love meeting people who are also interested. I'm the person in the front asking questions. People in the back are like, they smell like reefer and are like, can she stop asking questions? Like when I'm in school, listen, I got out of bed, put on clothes. I even comb my hair to get to class. Why would I sit in the back and sleep through a lecture? Even if I hate the course, I'm going to be getting my money's worth. More importantly, I'm going to be getting my time's worth. So I'm the person up front just asking questions. I have 3 notebooks. I have my little old school Lisa Frank Trapper Keeper, keeping everything organized. I have my calculator just in case. I have my calculator in an anthropology class because you never know. Calculating the differences between 2 femurs. I don't know. But it's important to maximize the time spent at these places. So if you end up going to a coding bootcamp, I'm just giving you some general advice right now. Maximize it. Don't be the person. When I got out of the military, I visited my friend in Pennsylvania. He went back to school. And he said, do you want to go check out my campus? I was like, I'd love to. Let's go check it out. So it was just a nice, great morning. You know, his classes didn't start till 9. We went out and had a little breakfast on campus. And he met up with some of his friends, and his friends are like, are you going to class today? He's like, yeah, I don't know. You drove 45 minutes in the hills of Western Pennsylvania, and you're not going to go to class? What are you doing? You got out of bed and drove darn near an hour, gas tank on E, coasting down the road to not go to class? Come on, go to class, especially in these boot camps, because you're not going to get a refund. And you're not going to want to go back to another boot camp unless it's completely paid for. I had this really interesting interview with this guy named Dom a couple months ago. Paradoodly-doo, if you can find this video, check this out. This guy, I've never heard any story like it. Dom, I can't remember where he's from. He's somewhere in the States. He's gone to, I think, 6 coding boot camps. 6. 6. I said, I have to talk to this person. I've never heard anything like this. His employers pay for it. So he figures, may as well maximize. And I just love it. I love seeing other people also taking full advantage of what's offered. Because if you don't take advantage of it, someone else is gonna. And that person is gonna take it. Why aren't you? If your employer says, I'll pay for a boot camp, try and find a good one. If your employer says, I will pay for a part-time boot camp, you can take it after hours. You know, if you need to take Fridays, go cut a little early on Fridays, fine. Consider doing it. Because it really is, having an employer pay for an education is an incredible benefit. Incredible. You don't have to pay it back. I don't know if you're aware of this, but there are a lot of people in this country anyway drowning in student loans. There is some guy on Dave Ramsey who was like $1 million in debt, and his student loans were 6 figures. I mean, how do you ever pay that off? Man. Take advantage of it. Schooling is expensive. Just a public service announcement. But that was such an interesting, and I just loved it because I've never heard anything like it. Hello, Dom, if you're watching, thanks for coming on the channel. This guy's probably on his like 20th boot camp. He doesn't even have to go to the course anymore, or go to the class, or go to the boot camp. He's just like, yeah, here's my assignment, because he has 20 projects of to-do apps, 20 projects of CRUD apps. He could just like submit any old one. They'd be like, yeah, this is actually really good. Boop. I'm just kidding. That was a really cool interview, though. So now we're going to I know I've been on this page for a while. You're thinking about going to a coding boot camp. Your employer said, we'll sponsor you. Maybe you came across some money, 10 or 15K. Maybe you took out some loans. Maybe you even put it on a credit card because you want to level up. Anything. Maybe who knows? You borrowed money. Whatever you did, you're looking at going. You have the funds. Let's do it. Okay. So last night I put together this list, and if you want to print this out, copy and paste it, whatever you want to do, go for it. 23 questions to ask any prospective coding boot camp. So I'm not going to read the whole intro. Basically, I said getting educated before you sign up for a coding boot camp is the best way to avoid getting ripped off and helps ensure your coding boot camp experience is a good one. Here's a list of questions to ask during your meeting with the bootcamp admissions rep. These are in no particular order. You don't have to ask all of them, but just something to get you thinking. Number 1, how is this bootcamp different from a Udemy course, or Treehouse, or Pluralsight, or Educative, or westboss.com, or Zero to Mastery, or RealToughCandy.io? Number 2, how will my classes be taught? In person, online, or hybrid? Number 3, how big are the class sizes? You know, if you're going to have 100 people in an auditorium, it's a lot different than if there are 4 people in class. You get a lot more personalized attention, and the teacher is able to, in my experience, deliver more relevant information and strategize a little better for the class, for the good of the class. Number 4, how much homework am I expected to do outside of class? Now, if you're a working mom, or you have a significant other that you want to spend time with, or you just have a lot going on, people have lives. So if they're expecting you to do, 8 hours of homework outside of the regular class hours, you go to boot camp from 9 to 5, and then you have to work till 1 a.m., and you have a family, something to really take account, to really consider. Number 5, what are the class hours? Number 6, what happens if I need to take a break? Number 7, what's my total cost of attending this boot camp? And this is where the low quality boot camps, one of the red flags is not being upfront or transparent with their total cost. So if they say, well, it's anywhere between $500 and $10,000, you need to say, I need a more concrete number. What is my total cost? And another red flag, if you're dealing with an admissions rep who seems annoyed at your questioning, run. Because it is the sign of a low quality workforce. And if the person in charge of the interfacing with students is that rude, wait until you see the instructors. They don't have to interface with students. They have to interface with students, not prospective students. When I went to the automotive bootcamp school, or automotive bootcamp, it kind of was a bootcamp, automotive engineering school. So this was my experience. The admissions rep was just so slick. Like, they're salespeople. And good salespeople look at you. They pay attention to you. They answer your questions. They give you a nice smile. They assure you, and they build confidence, and they build rapport. And after I signed on that dotted line, again, thank God it was with the GI Bill. I am not in any sort of debt to any school. Even when I was 16, I got on a scholarship to go to college. I've never, the only thing I've ever paid for out of my pocket is the application, which I think I can get reimbursed for, but it's just like not even worth it. I'll just eat the cost. Never had, any type of student loan, which I'm so thankful for. But after I signed that dotted line, the total cost of the school was something like $27,000. After I signed, I never saw that guy again. His job was completely over. It doesn't matter how I'm doing in the course, in the class. Doesn't matter if I'm getting straight D minuses. That guy fulfilled his job. He did a very good job of it. And if that person in that position is giving you bad vibes or a hard time, just wait. Don't wait. That's a very bad sign. That is a very bad sign, because if that's the person they're putting in front of prospective customers, wait till you see what's behind the curtain. Wait till you see what's behind door number 3. Question 8, do you offer tuition assistance? Now, remember when I was saying how these schools aren't accredited, so your financial aid packages are not going to look anything like a financial aid package at like the University of Michigan, U of M, whatever. Doesn't mean that tuition assistance doesn't exist. A lot of, there's like nonprofits and organizations that offer scholarships, $500 to women or whatever. The full ride scholarships, I don't really see. I'm sure they're out there. I just don't see them. But it's a question to ask. Get familiar with what they're offering in terms of tuition assistance. Do you offer an ISR, an income share agreement? I've seen some boot camps do that. And how does that work? An ISR, you still want to ask them about it, but I'm going to tell you what it is. An income share agreement means you defer your tuition until you get a job. I mean, Dave Ramsey really explained it. He's like, listen, this is a loan. When you're borrowing to pay for your education, that is a school loan. So an ISR is kind of this new school type of loan where you don't pay anything up front. And once you get your first paying job, this one bootcamp says it has to be over X amount of dollars in order for you to pay tuition. So that's I thought that was a neat incentive. But if it's like, okay, it's 10% your first couple years. So your first year, you're making $70,000. You owe the bootcamp $7,000. The second year, you're making $100,000. You owe the bootcamp $10,000. The third year, you're making $120,000. You owe the bootcamp $12,000. Do you see how ISRs can be a real ripoff in the long run? What was that math? That was $29,000, right? $7,000, $10,000, and $12,000. Nearly $30,000 to go to a coding bootcamp. Crunch the numbers, developers. That's a lot of money. That's like legit. That is a move-in ready home in the middle of nowhere in the Midwest. I see it. Go to Zillow.com. You will find houses that cheap. They're not like, burned out messes. They're actually move-in ready. That's a home. Crunch the numbers and make sure those look good. And if that's something you want to commit to, fine. But just to get that transparency is important. Number 10, what is the average debt a bootcamp student graduates with? So basically, their tuition, their cost minus scholarships and grants. So if their financial aid package is $500, but the bootcamp's $20,000, then they paid $19,500. That's a good number to know too. Number 11, do you have any informational pamphlets or documentation I can take home with me about tuition costs and tuition payment options? Number 12, what's your graduation rate? For-profit schools have abysmal graduation rates. I think they're legally compelled to publish them. I know for sure at my automotive engineering school I went to, it was a public notice. It was publicly posted in a hallway behind a glass pane. It was so funny. And it was like 26% the graduation rate, 26%. Not uncommon. Number 13, do you offer job placement assistance? Number 14, what's your job placement rate? Number 15, this is the one where I said number 15 will make some of them nervous. Can I sit in on a class? If they say no, ask them why not. That can really get you some insight. If you're paying $15,000 for a boot camp, they should accommodate reasonable requests. Sitting in on a class, just a 50-minute session, that is totally reasonable. And in my opinion, any legitimate boot camp would allow that. It's not like you have your little camcorder or like your brownie camera, your Polaroid taking screenshots of the curriculum. Like, they should allow it. And if they don't, ask them why not. Number 16, do you offer office hours, tutoring, or any type of one-on-one assistance if I need it? Number 17, what curriculum do you use? Is it a Udemy course? That's a red flag. Number 18, what types of projects will I build at this bootcamp? Will they be portfolio worthy? Are you going to be building tip calculators? Or are you going to be building something like a thoughtful CRUD application, a full stack application that you can put in your portfolio? Number 19, can I meet one of your instructors? If you're going to be spending weeks with this person day in and day out, you might be spending more time with that instructor than with your significant other. You want to make sure that, you don't have to be BFFs, but if something isn't right, it's going to be a long, miserable bootcamp experience. Number 20, why should I attend this bootcamp rather than competitor X bootcamp? Name drop some bootcamps and see what they say. Remember, this admissions rep is a salesperson. And if the bootcamp cares about its students and it cares about sustaining its establishment, they're going to hire some really knowledgeable people, and they're going to be more than happy to answer these questions, because the biggest incentive of answering these questions with a smiling face as an admissions rep is that it builds trust. So if your person, and this is the other thing I'll say too, though, just because if you go to a boot camp and you ask your admissions rep all these questions and they all sound great, does not mean it's an automatic go. It's a good signal. It's a very good signal if you get good answers for these, but this is just part of the package. You should never, ever, ever make a commitment right there on the spot. If they're pressuring you to make a decision, that is a red flag. You remember, you're in control here. They are the ones who are supposed to be enticing you to come to their boot camp. For-profit education is so interesting to me, because getting educated, I know I'm gonna get in trouble here. Education shouldn't be gate-kept in any way. But we live in a for-profit world, and so this is what we are dealing with. And so if we can maneuver it in a way that benefits us, we need to be doing that. And again, your bootcamp admissions rep is a salesperson. Doesn't mean they're bad. I know a lot of great salespeople. I mean, if anyone in business has to be in sales. So as a business person myself, I get it. But it's all about the angle of the dangle. And if they're being sleazy about it, or if they're being rude about it, there are other boot camps out there, and you don't have to commit to a boot camp anyway. Maybe you're just like poking around, getting some information. But they need to be doing their hardest work and their best work, getting you enticed, making you feel at ease. So because there is a big element of sales in these conversations with your admissions rep, it's not the one and only thing. Just one thing that really helps me too, that I've done before, not just with schools, but with potential employers. If I'm thinking about applying to a place that I've never seen, I'll go ahead and do just like a drive-by during the day and then during the night. And I'll see, who's walking out of those doors at 5:00? Who's walking out of those doors a little later? Who's hanging out around 9 at night? Like, this establishment closes at 5. Why are there still people hanging out here? Are these like people who were forced to work overtime? Are these people just like loitering? Is this like, and just checking out the neighborhood around it and stuff. Some of these boot camps, they're going for low rent because they want to make a lot of money. some of them are in bad places, not a place where, you'd want to be after it gets dark. Like those are other considerations when you're vetting boot camps. Now, some of them do completely online. I know a lot of them now, because of the Rona, are doing fully online. But I'm saying with like physical locations, also parking. I've been to so many schools developers, like for-profit, nonprofit, state schools, you name it. I've done it. There's this one school I was going to where the parking was absolutely crazy. There was never any freaking parking, and sometimes you'd have to go park on the street, and it was like, $5-6 an hour. It's like, seriously? Make sure if you're driving, commuting, make sure the parking situation's legitimate. Make sure if you're taking public transportation that the bus or the train comes within a reasonable time when you get out of school. All these things. So I guess the biggest thing I was trying to say is that this question list is just part of it when you're vetting coding boot camps. All right. So hopefully this list was helpful for anyone thinking about going to coding boot camps. And I don't know if I mentioned this earlier, but I am not anti-boot camp. I am not anti-boot camp at all. I in fact, 2 years ago on medium.com, paradoodly, if you can find this link, I owe you one. I owe you a kombucha. This was a medium.com article I published about 2 years ago. I interviewed boot camp graduates. Some loved it, some not so much. And what I'm trying to do above anything is not say, go to a boot camp, don't go to a boot camp. What I am saying is, get educated before you get educated. Get educated before you go to a boot camp. Because the more information and knowledge you have going into these sessions, the better decisions you're going to make. And at least if everything goes wrong, like in Sarah's story, she was saying that, there were some red flags, but I decided to go for it. And then it just kind of went downhill from there. If you're asking these questions and still something goes wrong, at least you can say, you know what? I tried my best. I tried my hardest to vet this place. And usually even the bad boot camps will give you a refund like after your first day. If it is complete unmitigated disaster, you say, oh my gosh, what was I thinking? That first day, I don't want to say usually because I haven't seen all their return policies, but from my experience, that first week is like, okay, your first day is 100%, depending on if it's like a 6-week boot camp or not. When I was going to automotive engineering school, I think it was, oh my gosh, it was like a year-long program. And so there was like a bigger grace period. Like your first week was like a 90% refund or something. So I didn't have to, because there were just too many red flags that piled on once I started going to the school. Because again, I did ask the admissions rep questions. I felt good about what he was telling me. We got into a golf cart and toured the campus while I was like munching on nachos. Like I was having a ball. I felt taken care of there. It really changed once I started going and once they got my tuition money. Fortunately, I had dropped out, if that's what you want to call it. I just kind of stepped away. I stepped away from that school. And so the 8 months of my GI Bill, most of those were refunded. And if you pay cash, most of your cash would have been refunded. But like, I think it was by the second week, if you missed 3 days or more of school, you were automatically disenrolled and they kept all your money. And again, this was like $30,000 school. A lot of people got taken advantage of. And that's just how for-profit schools work. Or I don't know if you want to say taken advantage of, but it just, for whatever reason, my reason was I just didn't feel safe. And a lot of it wasn't as advertised. The curriculum was kind of weak and just wasn't for me. So even if you're asking the question, doesn't mean it's going to work out. But if you do see those red flags once you're enrolled in boot camp, take them seriously. and try and build up your network with students in the boot camp. And so kind of like a sanity check, be like, okay, am I just like fantasizing this is a problem, or is this a real problem? Try and outreach and network as much as you can. So this is Sarah's story here. This is Bootcamp Nightmare. Again, if you want to follow along or check out this blog later, Google it, RealToughCandy.io blog. So Sarah, aka Sarah the Dev, our lovely mod on YouTube right now, as well as in our Discord. I'm going to take a swig of this, and then we're going to talk about this. So, question 2. There are many ways to learn about web development. What made you decide to go to a coding bootcamp? Sarah said, I had previously taken a few comp sci courses and web development classes in college. A few computer science and web development / design classes in college. I had also done some freelance work out of college. It'd been about 10 years since I'd done any web dev stuff. I decided I wanted to get back into it for a career change. I started relearning on my own with the help of many online resources, but I was struggling with a few things and wanted to fill in the blanks. A common story for many of us, going back to the beginning of this live stream, this career field is tough, and it's not just about being able to Google something as a code newbie. Now, when you're in the industry, we Google day in and day out, we find our answer, we Stack Overflow, we're good to go. But as far as getting the direction and getting these techniques for learning down, very difficult. And so Sarah was struggling with a few things. I wanted to fill in the blanks. So I decided to go to a coding bootcamp, thinking this would help fill in the stuff I was struggling with at a faster pace than I was doing at my own. Again, bootcamps, they're accelerated learning environments. It's a really promising alternative when you're a struggling newbie. Tell us about your bootcamp experience. All right, developers, this is the climax of this video and of the story. My bootcamp experience was not great. To put it nicely, I signed up for a 12-week in-person bootcamp. The bootcamp said no experience necessary. You had some pre-course work. Pretty easy because Sarah had some HTML, CSS, and JavaScript experience. Come the first day, if you are not at mid-level of HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, you're going to be struggling. I attended an in-person coding bootcamp as I thought being in person was good for networking and learning teamwork, and having an instructor present would be available for the questions I had or if I ran into any issues, just like we were talking about earlier. I am also kind of old school and like learning in a class setting. Unfortunately, this particular bootcamp said during open house that they did all these things. They did not. There was no working on projects together. The only thing you did with a classmate besides go to lunch was maybe see if they could help you if you were stuck on something, but they were usually stuck on the same thing. And if you did get stuck and asked for help, the instructor would just shrug and tell you to figure it out yourself. As far as networking, it seemed it was every man and woman for themselves. I spent about 12 plus hours a day in class and learned absolutely nothing that I didn't already know. It was a huge waste of my time and money. And then we asked, what challenges did you face as a bootcamp student? The bootcamp had a policy to struggle for 20 minutes. After 20 minutes, you can ask for help from a classmate. Normally, I would struggle for way longer than 20 minutes. Then if I still couldn't figure out my issue, I talked to a classmate whom 90% of the time couldn't figure out the issue either. So after struggling ourselves and asking a classmate for help, we were then allowed to ask the instructor for help, usually an hour, and sometimes several hours had passed at this point. Once we asked the instructor for help, we would usually get the following comment, I will let you figure that out. I was in boot camp to fill in the blanks of info that I didn't know, and I was being told by an instructor to go figure it out myself. Developers, this passage illustrates so much of what we've been talking about this past hour about vetting coding bootcamps, and not just vetting them, but what's behind door number 3. This, to me, this passage, especially right here, when the instructor said, I will let you figure that out, it tells me they weren't trained. It tells me they actually didn't know the answer to the question, and probably they were just going from a book or from a course, and they're not qualified to really teach. They're just there as warm bodies to ensure that the class doesn't get too out of control. Other challenges, one of my instructors was a former student who had just graduated about 3 months prior to me attending. He had no teaching skills and couldn't answer basic questions. The boot camp was poorly organized. Many of the assignments were optional on the learning platform, but you really should be doing them. For example, a section on GitHub was optional, but when I asked the instructor why it was optional, he said it's not important and that no one uses it. If you did do the optional assignments, you would fall behind and it was hard to catch up. I saw a few classmates quit because of this. And so Sarah's story again affirms the red flags and affirms the traits of the typical coding bootcamp. The big chunk at the bottom of the coding bootcamp pyramid. Poorly organized. Incompetent instructors. No guidance. Sarah goes down here to say that she learned more on Udemy than in this coding bootcamp. She said, I think sites like Udemy or Free Code Camp and even some YouTube tutorials are just as good, if not better. Some of the stuff I was having to deal with at my bootcamp, just make sure you are learning from an updated course. She says, do your research, do more research, and just when you think you have found the one you like, do more research. And that really is the lesson for today. And this is where I'm going to wind down this live stream. Don't go just yet. I want to say hi to you all. But this is where we are wrapping up. The main pointers of today's live stream is that if you are considering going to a boot camp, do your research. And then when you think you found one, do some more research. Use these 23 questions. You don't have to ask all of them, but you should be asking your admission. You should be interrogating your admissions rep. A good coding bootcamp wants to know about you. They just don't want to know. They want to know how much is in your bank account, but they also want to know about you if they're a reputable place, if they're planning on actually teaching you and placing you in a job. They're going to be asking you questions about, your coding history, your learning styles, just more about you so they can help you as a student. But you need to be interrogating them and asking them questions too, because it's a two-way street. And at the end of the day, you're the one doing them a favor by keeping them in business with your $25,000 or $10,000 admissions fee, or even more if you're doing an ISR. These boot camps can sound very promising, and many of them have helped. Many of them. And when I say many, I mean, again, I think there are probably about 20 boot camps of all of them that I can say, this one's worth investigating more. I've heard some great things about it. I've interviewed people who've graduated from it or are now working in the industry. Check it out. But whether it's a 4% acceptance rate school, one of your top tier FANG level coding boot camps, or one just around the corner from you no one's heard of, you want to be grilling them. You want to be getting your research in a row, because this is a big financial investment. A lot of people, myself included, boot camps become a more attractive alternative. There's some sort of ratio, and I wish I could visualize this. Dr. Candace, are you still here? Can you recommend a good visualization tool for a non-data science developer? There's some ratio that I'm seeing in my head right now. The more desperate we become, the more attractive boot camps become. And so it's like this really perverse relationship, because it's like, I'm struggling. Boot camps sound better. I'll do anything. As we get further in our self-taught journey, more things become frustrating. We need someone to untangle these knots or help us untangle these knots, because without guidance, it's an uphill battle. And boot camps seem like a really attractive option when you're on your 6 month of learning this stuff by yourself. You've been taking the Cold Steel course for 8 months. You still don't know what the heck. There's still some things you're just not getting. Boot camps become more and more attractive as the days go on because the way they market, the way they're accelerated, even going through some of their tech stacks, you're like, oh, wow, they must really be organized. They are they're just like water in a desert. They're an oasis in the desert once you get to a certain point. And even before you start coding, your first week may be really tough. And boot camps become more and more attractive. So I hope today's talk/session has been helpful for you. Let me go into the chat and see who all's here. Hello. Whoa. We got some super chats here. Thank you, Michelle Paradoodly and Zayonce Codes. Oh, that's awesome. I had no idea. Thank you so much. Michelle Williams says, I went to a coding bootcamp and I feel like it was a scam. At the same time, I do think it may have helped me get my first job. I still self-teach. Thanks for the comment, Michelle, and thank you for the super chat. Paradoodly Doo just dropping by to show some love, it appears. And Zayonce says, yes, research. Thank you, Michelle, Paradoodly, and Zayonce for those super chats. My live comment here is a little slow, or my live chat section here. Jippy Joyce, same stat. Jippy Josse says, same sad story here in France. Do your research. Let's see, Mighty Minority, these stories are really helpful. I went the community college route, which wasn't the greatest, but got me a decent QA job through an internship and networking. Good, that's awesome. Leon Brown says, to be fair, these bad boot camps sound the same as university courses, but letting you fail cheaper and faster sounds like a good deal in comparison. That's an interesting comment, Leon. I'm going to read it again. To be fair, these bad boot camps sound like the same story as university courses, but letting you fail cheaper and faster. Well, it depends on the boot camp because a lot of them require the full tuition up front. And so $15,000, $20,000. And like we were talking earlier, these refund policies can be a little dubious. So like after your first week, if it's a 12-week boot camp and you're not feeling it, you get no money back. Whereas with a university, you pay in semesters. So I agree with you that, learning web development in college is probably going to be not very helpful. Computer science, on the other hand, some of these more timeless topics, very helpful. Most graduates of computer science programs that I know from college, they're really good with the fundamentals. And so picking up web development, they are doing on their own. But because they have that base knowledge from college, it's so much more efficient for them to do it. And they know where they need to go and they know what they need to learn in order to start implementing. Because going to a boot camp, a lot of people, they start from ground zero, they start from scratch. And so it's not just you learning a language, it's not just learning how to implement stuff, it's learning computer science fundamentals. How does the internet work? Why do I need to know how the internet works as a web developer? In software programming fundamentals, really, that can be applied to all different languages. Most people in college, I've seen lots of colleges teach Java. I've taken a few college Java courses. A lot of colleges now, though, shifting to Python, which is really exciting because Python is such a great beginner language. It's versatile and it sparks joy, to be honest. But thanks for the comment. Interesting comment. Michelle says, my life is Udemy, YouTube, and Stack Overflow. Yeah. Udemy, I am not the Udemy fanatic I once was. I've replaced Udemy with Educative because it is interactive and some of the topics are more geared towards, some of the topics are really esoteric. And so I find that interesting. I'm taking this course right now, Concurrency and Go, just really interesting topics. So I'm kind of addicted to that place. But yeah, Stack Overflow and YouTube for sure. Let's see. Sarah says, I know it sounds like I'm anti-bootcamp, but really, if you get the right one, I think it can definitely turn your life around for sure. And that's the biggest struggle, is just finding the right one. And you end up, I think a lot of people do feel pressure to pick one quickly. Like, oh, I don't want to waste another week. I need a job now. If you pick one that isn't a good fit, it's going to mess your life up even more. So again, really going back to the point of researching and not rushing into it. Like, would you rush into any other $30,000 decision? Would you rush into a $15,000 decision, especially if you don't have the money? That's what gets me, because a lot of these boot camps, you go to their funding page and I see it more often than not where one of the funding options is asking friends and family for money. And it's just sad. Not that people have to, I mean, it is sad that these places are so expensive and funding options are so limited that one of the recommended options is asking a friend or family member for $15,000. Like, oh yeah, I'll just call up my mom and ask her for a $15,000 check for a for-profit school that I think I might like. Like, that's one of the mainstream funding options. So, yeah. If you do get funding from family or friends, I mean, that's not a bad thing inherently, ostensibly, but you're gonna feel kind of awkward, I would think, if you end up dropping out and are like, yeah, I owe you $15K and I didn't finish the course. Like, my parents would be very disappointed, to put it lightly. Mr. DK says, hi from Barcelona. What's up, Zayance? My boot camp was in a bad neighborhood and no parking. I feel that comment. Yeah, that's why I mention it, because I've experienced both of those things. Michelle says, my boot camp was basically a scam, but hid behind a rather prestigious university, and a lot of people I graduated with were not super motivated. It wasn't very selective. Michelle, check this out. So I think I know the place you're talking about. I actually, if this is indeed the place, I did interview with them for a teaching position outside of Chicago. And was it in Evansville? I can't remember, but it was right outside Chicago. And the interview was a red flag. So, because I thought it'd be really cool to teach for a boot camp, like, you know, being with people who want to learn and want to get involved in this career. I thought it was right on. So, once I got to the interview phase, I'm like, this is not right on. This is like wrong on. I have to not do this. And so this is just a PSA that I don't know if it's one or multiple of these boot camps. There is one in particular that does work directly with some prestigious names, particularly prestigious universities. And I will tell you from my interview experience that there was no such prestige in the interview, and there is no such prestige in the reviews, in the constructively criticism-rich reviews that I was able to locate. Again, a lot of these places are scrubbing negative reviews. Some of these sites, these bootcamp review sites, are all like, you go to these bootcamp review sites and all of them are like 5-star. Like, you have to find out the motivation behind the site. And just because it's on the first page doesn't mean it's going to be the most objective. So what you're looking for as a student is objective analysis from other people, right? And if everyone's saying, you know, it was great, maybe it is great, but scrubbing bad reviews is that are constructive. And I again, there is a difference between people trolling and wanting to ruin a business. There is a big difference between that segment of people and people who had a legitimate grievance, people who had a legitimate negative experience and who are explaining it. It's all, in the words of Bootsy Collins, Funk King, it's all about the angle of the dangle. If you say it in a way that's constructive and it's 1 star, excellent. Now they can work on getting better. Now that company can work on getting better. But if you're just saying, yeah, this place sucks, that's troll level. And I don't think those reviews should be published, because who's to even say that you went to the boot camp? Anyways, the bigger point being, do your research behind these, because the ones with the low reputations are going to be hiding behind other organizations, and they're going to be using the prestige factor of other places to make themselves look good. And I thought when I saw too, so for this boot camp, when I was applying to be a teacher there, I was like, wow, they're associated with all these places. Like these were like name brand names. And so there's that immediate trust factor. I was like, well, this institution has like 150-year history of prestige and sending people out into the world equipped with knowledge. Once I did the interview and once I learned more about the company, not the case. Lots of great comments here. Lue, sorry, I'm mispronouncing most people's names here, and I apologize. Lue, Zayamain, Tasif. Let's get to some more comments. Let's see. GC the Coder's here. What's up, GC? Joseph Morales. Akil, hello. Tech Rally. Zayamain says, my company actually offered this week to pay for any courses I want to do. I plan to take full advantage. Good for you, Zaya. Seriously, like, when an employer offers that, do it. My employer, the military, offered the GI Bill, and that is one of the biggest benefits I've ever maximized. Like, I think I have, like, 11 or 12 months left on it, and I'm thinking, I think I might want to go get I want to go do real estate, and I want to get some sort of licensing. If not, like, I don't want to share too many of my plans, but I want to get more into real estate. And so I was thinking about maybe doing some real estate courses or even getting my real estate license as a side hustle. But it is any type of employer-based education benefit is absolutely amazing. Even freaking Walmart and some of these fast food places are doing tuition reimbursement. They know you're not going to stay there forever. They're trying to prepare you for leveling up. And even some of their some of these manager positions in some of these businesses they're doing even extra education for people to stay in the company, getting educated to be better managers. So wherever you choose to go next, they're facilitating the level up process. And that is something I can get behind no matter what the company. All right, developers, some really great comments here. I can't get through all of these. I could really go another hour looking at these comments. But I would just like to say thank you for tuning in. What a great live stream tonight. Thanks for your participation. Sarah the Dev, thank you for sharing your story. Again, if you want to read Sarah's story, hop onto the RealToughCandy blog. Just Google RealToughCandy.io blog. All those stories are going to pop up. We also have some interviews from other people in our Discord. GTD, we did a full interview. Taylor, the web dev. Taylor was born blind, but she started her LLC and now does consults on making people better with web development accessibility. I think that's so awesome. Very inspiring. We also have a course menu announcement. Now, I will show you this quick. I don't want to get too off topic, but for our yearly members, we got something coming up in the next couple of months. We have WordPress for Skeptics for our yearly members. And then for our monthly members, or just you want to just get the course and get out, our a la carte students, this month I am releasing a course, monetizing your web apps. Spoiler alert, it's not just about throwing Google AdSense on your freaking website. That is like one of many options, and Google Ads is one of many, many ad options. So we're talking about not only ad options, but also other monetization options for your web app. So you can start making money as a web developer. That's what we all want, right? So making more money, that's coming up in December. And then in the spring, April 2021, I'm dropping Solving Problems with JavaScript, Summer 2021, Intermediate UX UI, and then our yearly members are going to have some exclusive workshops and trainings. So very excited about that. We also have an article on ATS, applicant tracking systems, some general advice for people looking to get in the industry and more. So that is what I'm going to be ending this live stream on. I hope everyone has a wonderful weekend. I didn't quite slam my kombucha. I thought I was going to be so high blood pressure that this thing would definitely be gone by now. It is. Shout out to my channel members. Oh, if I start naming them, I'm going to forget names. William Claybrook, I know there's someone else. Let me go up here quick. I don't want to forget names. Candace, Donovan, there was some other channel member here. I'm so sorry. The live chat was so live, I can't even go up and check it. Thank you so much. Have a great weekend, like I said. Tomorrow we're dropping a video on CICD. What the heck is CICD? Well, I'll tell you tomorrow. And it's for newbies. A gentle introduction to CICD. I haven't been drinking. Man, a few years ago, I would be sounding like that right about now. I love... well, we won't get into it. Party days are in my past. Thanks, everyone. This is a Minnesota goodbye, but I had such a great time tonight. See you later. See you in the Discord, and see you in the next video.